This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Alright, so which one of these numbers is ADP? Hello everyone and welcome. Today I answer the question, can you beat Armored Core 6 with only weapons? Yes you can. I've done it several times in fact. So why am I doing this challenge? Well, I just wanted to play the game honestly. It looked like fun, but also I'm not completely sure how well this game will lend itself to proper challenge runs. Sure, there are various weapon types in the age-old no death or even a no hit run, though you'd have to be insane to try that, but thanks to this game being mission based and not one big cohesive world, there's no planning or rooting, it's just doing. Other than those runs though, I don't really know what else could be a good challenge, so I decided to just play the game. And that's what this video is. It will be my thoughts over the game. Not necessarily a review, just my experience. As of writing this script, I've cleared the game 3 times and will be showing one of those 3 endings, so if you want to play the game first, I recommend you do that. We good? Then let's get into it. The tutorial mission starts you off with a decent mid-mech, not particularly fast, but also able to take a hit. It also gives you a slow but decent damaging assault rifle, a laser sword, and a 4-barreled missile launcher. I actually ended up using almost this exact setup for the majority of the game, mostly because am stupid and don't know how to optimize a build, but also the game doesn't have level scaling. Well, that's only partially true. There is a way to increase damage through operating system chips, but what I mean is there's no missile launcher plus 10 in this game. Anyway, of course you'll encounter stronger enemies as you progress, but the basic enemies in the tutorial level have the same health as the basic enemies in the last level.
Looks like they've got shields. Good thing you've got a blade.
Sir, I don't think you know how shields are supposed to work. So far I've been having a pretty easy time with this game. Oh, that's right, it was made by From Software. I should probably address this right now. Armored Core 6 is not a Souls-like. It's a bullet hell. Aside from being difficult and the fact that you can have different builds, there's nothing that makes it a Souls-like. So if you come into this game expecting something like Mech Dark Souls, then you might be disappointed. But if you come into it expecting a good game, you will not be let down. At the end of the tutorial, we steal someone's identity, which is way easier than it should be in today's day and age. They really should have been using today's sponsor, Surfshark, to protect themselves, though they might have also needed ballistic protection from the look of it. Surfshark VPN keeps your online identity safe from companies wanting to sell your information or from cybercriminals trying to steal it by encrypting all of the information sent between your device and the internet. They have hundreds of servers all around the world that are just one click away from helping you protect yourself. But more importantly, it can change your digital location. I don't know how many times I have wanted to watch a movie on Netflix only for it to be randomly restricted in my country, but with Surfshark I can just tell Netflix I totally teleported from America to Europe in a matter of seconds and Netflix is like, yep, IP checks out, and bam, European Netflix. Seriously though, having a VPN is practically a must these days, both for protecting yourself and to just enjoy the internet. So that is why I am beyond happy that I can share this deal with all of you. Use my link in the description below and enter the code DOOMWOLF at checkout for an extra 3 months of this amazing service for free. But if you still aren't sure if this is for you, well, I have one more thing to say. Try it out, and if you aren't convinced how great it is, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. There is literally no risk. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. After the tutorial, you'll end up in the garage, and right now all you can do is access your mech assembly and go on missions. Training mode? That's for babies. I'm only doing this for the rewards and the achievements, I swear. The next mission is really short, with the objective just being clear everything out. In fact, I'm probably going to skip a lot of the missions because most of them are just, I flew in and blew everything up. The next mission, Destroy the Tester AC, has you destroy a Tester AC. It's the first mission in the game that has a proper duel, and it definitely isn't the last. At this point I was still pretty uncomfortable with the controls, but it's nothing if you fire and forget rockets can't handle. Oh, I remember this from the promotional videos. Yeah, probably shouldn't get hit by that. What did I just say? I really enjoyed this level because it has an amazing sense of scale. I mean, look at the size of that thing compared to me, and I'm expected to figure out a way to bring it down? The game has a couple levels where you deal with larger-than-life machines, and they're all just awesome. Anyway, after flying around destroying a few sub-generators, I am face to face with the biggest f**k-off laser I have ever seen. At least, so far, but that's for later. Fortunately, it is a very large target, so it's not hard to just pump rockets into it, and as we all know, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. It was now that I started actually trying to customize my mech. See, I wanted something fast and agile, able to dodge in and out of enemy fire. I never figured out how to do that. Instead, I ended up with a build that I can only describe as a mid-roll knight, and if you know, you know. Climb the wall? How hard could that be? Alright, pretty hard I guess. The boss of this level is actually much easier than the mini-boss because it's literally a case of getting behind it and slashing at its ankles. Tank tracks. How can something that big move that fast? I wasn't actually outputting a large amount of damage with my build, but I did have the vertical missile launchers that helped hit this thing because it completely shrugs off attacks from the front, and eventually, it goes down. The next mission had an objective other than just shoot things, and that was to collect data. Exciting, I know, but it is nice to see some diversity in mission types, even if only like 6 total missions have that. Afterwards, I unlocked the arena, which sounds like PvP to me and I almost turned the game off, but it turns out it's actually one-on-one battles that award OS chips, this game's version of skill points. These alternate between being ludicrously easy and occasionally soul-crushingly hard, but this is as good a time as any to talk about the stagger mechanic. Inflicting damage on an enemy causes their posture to eventually break, and when that happens they will be stunned for a second, allowing for a free hit that deals increased damage. So my plan was to use my assault rifle for sustained chip damage while keeping their posture bar from going down, and then use my missiles to actually break it before delivering a heavy damage grenade to the face. Now it's time for the mission Attack the Watch Point, what will probably become the great filter for this game. The mission starts off pretty easy, just clearing out some random enemies and laser artillery cannons, but eventually there's an enemy AC to deal with, Sula. While not the hardest mech encounter in the game, not by a long shot, it is the most challenging so far. He's able to dish out some heavy damage if you let him, but more importantly, he can heal. And this isn't a slow, maybe I can knock him out of healing thing either, no, it is instant, like the players. It's not impossible to stagger enemies just before they heal and then deal massive damage, but that requires great timing and even more luck. On my first try I almost got him, but I took too much damage from the early encounter and lost with him having practically nothing for health left. Second try I easily handle him, but then it was time for Balteus. This is it. This is the fight that the game journalist gave up at. Except it was apparently actually the tutorial boss? Guys, come on. This is a two-phase fight where the boss has regenerating shields, huge sweeping fire attacks, and fires so many missiles it would make the United States blush. I don't even know if you can avoid all of these attacks. No matter what I tried to do, dodge away, dodge towards, left, right, fly up, drop down, none of it mattered and he constantly hit me. Now, I am a seasoned Souls veteran and have fought many a boss that seemed like they had impossible to handle attacks before. Melania, Ishin, Manus, Covetous Demon, they all took time, but eventually you can learn their movesets. So I'm not so naive to think you truly can't dodge these attacks, but my god, the game does not give you a chance to figure it out. On my first attempt, I actually got really close to downing him. Then I spent the next 2 hours trying to get anywhere near that. I ended up figuring out that flying directly up or dropping out of the sky are the most reliable ways to avoid his sweeping flame attacks. Anything else I would just quick boost in a direction and pray. There is something I could have done to make this fight easier, well, several somethings, but I didn't realize it, and that is to use the boost kick. I wrote it off in my first playthrough and never unlocked it, but it is invaluable and I recommend you get it as soon as possible. At any rate, this fight is pure spectacle, and after beating it I really feel like I started to understand how to play this game, and the point where I decided I loved it. I hope that if you give this game a chance you manage to break through this wall, because some of the fights to come are just amazing. Also, there is now someone named Air speaking to us directly in our brain, and I'm sure that isn't related to the insane amount of concussions per minute I suffer every mission. She's actually vitally important to the story, but I'm not going to go too deep into that right now. Next mission is to infiltrate Grid 086. First up is a fight with Invincible Rummy, but Rummy here apparently didn't take ballistics into account when coming up with his name, or he doesn't know the definition of invincible. Either way, it's an easy fight. The end of the level has the Smart Cleaner boss. This thing moves fast and hits hard, but I can fly, so it wasn't an issue. I'm noticing a trend with bosses that they try to encourage the player to change their builds to fit the situation. I mean, sure, you could brute force it like I did with Balteus, and spoilers, pretty much every other fight in this run, but the game definitely wants you to try out different weapons and mechs for each mission. Using this boss as an example, most of its attacks are low, wide sweeps or rushing punches, and it also has that obvious Death Star flaw on the top of it. So if you had a build that could take to the skies and stay there, it would be really easy, or at least an easier time than a ground-based mech would have. In other words, the tetrapod legs would probably make this trivial, and the game is trying to show me that, but I'm stubborn and don't personally think those look good, so I never use them. Also, the sweeper goes down on the first try. I found it incredibly easy and don't think I've died to it at all yet, but I'm curious to know how everyone else feels about it, so please tell me in the comments what y'all think, and while you're down there, maybe consider giving a like and subscribing. It really helps the channel out. Next up is Ocean Crossing, and if I had any suspicions that this game would be easy, this level quickly kicked that idea out of my mind and into orbit. Starting off, I am told there are giant space death rays hovering overhead. Probably shouldn't be hit by those. Well, they did warn me, so that's on me. This mission is actually really short. It's literally just a sprint from the beginning to a boss fight. It takes about 45 seconds, and that's including the classic From Software elevator ride. But the boss, oh god, the boss. This is the Sea Spider, and I just realized it's sea like the ocean, not sea like the letter, and that is either a missed opportunity or some lore I'm missing, but I digress. This thing absolutely destroyed me. It can move deceptively fast, hits even harder than you think it should for being a 10-ton laser robot, and has weirdly good tracking on some of its attacks. Actually, to be fair, that last thing isn't unique to this boss. Nearly every boss in the game has some kind of mid-range attack with near psychic levels of tracking. There's a particularly egregious example of that much later, so I'm waiting until then to complain about it. Anyway, back to the sea spider. I eventually realized that staying away from it was the best option. Big surprise, I guess, being further away from the thing trying to kill you increases the chance of survival. Eventually it goes into phase 2 where it starts to fly around, but honestly this was even easier than phase 1 as its most devastating attacks are a massive laser fired at the ground and this rolling kind of melee attack. But being in the air just automatically hard counters either of those things, so air superiority for the win. That's not to say that this was an easy fight. It took me a couple hours, and at one point I actually ran almost completely out of ammo. Like, what am I supposed to do without rockets? Punch it to death? I'm not Zero Lenny. To be honest, this should have been my wake-up call to start playing with other toys, but I am beyond stubborn sometimes, and I knew that I could do it if only I landed a few more shots and stopped getting murdered. And about an hour and a half later, I do it, with a whopping 7 grenades and 36 bullets left. Yep. Not even close. So, what's the deal here? I'm going to get in this and you're just gonna carry me across the ocean?
You know the cargo launcher's strictly for cargo,
Wait,
right?
cargo launcher? I think I'd like to get off. Oh yeah, I'm definitely pink mist inside that mech suit now. The next mission up, Steal the Survey Data, starts off pretty easy but ends up being difficult for me in the end. Not because there was some crazy hard boss, just because, again, my build was not optimized for the encounter. However, I want to address another issue I have with the game as it is right now. Non-boss missions are generally really easy. You fly around taking out some weak MTs that go down in literally like 4 bullets, hell, most of them aren't even worth the rockets I fire at them. Occasionally you'll click on something in the environment, but that's pretty much it. To the game's credit, there are a couple of missions that shake it up, but I really do mean a couple. There's like 1 escort, 1 stealth, and 2 defense missions, I think. I might be missing a defense mission, but either way, that means out of the 55-ish levels, there's only 4 or 5 that have gameplay that goes beyond shoot robot with gun. Don't misunderstand, I love this game, it's fun, and the in-depth customization of the mech is really engaging. You know, if I actually engaged with it. It's just a bit of a weird difficulty thing. The majority of the game you'll absolutely breeze through as a metallic god of death, then get hard-walled by a boss, and I don't really have an answer for that. Making different colored robots have more health is a thing of the late 90s and is an overall lazy thing to do, so I'm glad they didn't, but I'm not sure what they could have done given there isn't any strength progression outside of a few damage upgrades and changing weapons. Anyway, back to why this mission is suddenly difficult for me. At the end there's a heavy warship, which itself is laughably easy to take out, like this thing looks massive and like it should be a pain to destroy, but literally just get above it and pump a few rockets into the deck and it's toast. Again, it's just laughably easy to handle regular enemies. That being said, allow me to introduce you to the random enemy that kicked my teeth in. This LC, and no, I don't know what that stands for, made my life hell by itself for like 30 minutes. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 30 minutes on a regular enemy. He has a shield that stops my bullets, is airborne most of the time, meaning a direct shot from my grenade launcher is unlikely, and quick boost out of the way of my missiles. Eventually I realized I could just stay close to him and he couldn't do much to me either, but this was just a weird and random spike in difficulty. I also know that I could have made this fight way easier if I utilized the boost kick or melee, but here we are. Anyway, the mission concludes with another warship, and then many more warships. I bet I could take them all at once. Next up is Eliminate V7, and this is the stealth mission I mentioned earlier. Basically, you have to get to the other side of the city without being detected. If an enemy sees you, you have a short time to either get behind something or destroy it. Sounds easy enough, right? And it is, except my mech is built for mid to close range combat, so I got spotted way more often than I should have. Again, another instance of I could have made this easier if I changed my build, but no, just gotta be stubborn. Anyway, at the end is a fight with Swinburne, who isn't really anything special, but at half health he starts talking trying to end the fight. Now, I thought this was a trick, so I just kept attacking him, but if I had let him finish, I would have had a chance to either keep fighting him or let him go. There are a few missions in the game with these choices, and I like it. I think it adds a nice level of complexity and depth to the world building. Beyond these little decisions though, there are actually whole missions that just can't be done until New Game Plus or even New Game Plus Plus, which greatly change your perception of some of the characters, and I'm so glad FromSoft did this. New Game Pluses in most games are usually just the same thing, but maybe enemies have more health or you just get to keep all your stats, but having something be actually different is a great way to incentivize players to replay the game. In fact, the true ending of this game can only be achieved in or after New Game Plus Plus, as the missions required to do it just don't exist until then. Don't worry, I won't be showing any of that in this video, it's just cool that that's a thing. Anyway, the next mission has me blowing up some helicopters and a reactor core? This seems like a bad idea. Oh well, I'm paid to make explosions, not to think. Ah, a 2v1 is it? Can't fight me Meko-e-Meko, can you? You know, I'm making a joke about the game needing to team up on me to win, but I later learned this absolutely is not true, and one mech is definitely enough to kill me. A thing I'd like to point out real fast is that some missions have this little decision marker. It's there to tell you that this mission will guide you towards a certain ending, and I like this. I know it isn't exactly realistic. I mean, when you wake up and decide what shirt to wear, you don't see a pop-up over your head that reads, "This decision will drastically change your life" or anything. Though I sure wish college would do that. Anyway, for the purposes of being a game with branching paths, it's nice to know that this specific point is where I need to pay extra attention to my actions. It's a breath of fresh air because all of the other FromSoft games I've played, if you so much as look at an NPC at the wrong time, they die a horrible death. In my case, I decided to follow the Liberation Front and destroy the Special Forces craft. This thing's weak point is directly in the front, which is weird. Like, okay, just look at it. It's an armored tank that has a mech at its center, okay? Why? There is no way the pilots of these mechs rely solely on their own vision to fight. The mechs 100% have to have some kind of radar system, which means there is no point to not have a massive shield in front of the mech to also be armored from the front. The only reason that would be an issue is if the targeting systems were taken offline, then the pilot absolutely couldn't see anything. Further, if they are using their vision, then the tank itself is acting like a blinder on either side and above him. This design doesn't make sense, okay? Why am I getting so worked up over this? It's a tank robot shooting rockets. I should just enjoy the ride. Next mission starts off pretty normal. Fly around taking out docked warships, which are unsurprisingly even easier than their airborne counterparts, and after that it's a fun 2v2 fight alongside Rusty with a couple of random PAC NPCs. Who is Rusty, you ask? He's a cool guy, that's who. Anyway, had the mission ended here, there wouldn't have been any real reason to bring it up, but it doesn't end here. Instead, we are shown the Ice Worm. Currently, nothing I have is effective against this thing. It eats my rockets and grenades like they're Cheerios, and not the delicious frosted kind either, the plain Cheerios, so you know this guy means business. Fortunately, the game has a plan for that, and that plan is really big gun. Like, can I put that on my arm, please? Holy crap. Anyway, it's defended by an AC, Honest Brood, who is not an issue. I haven't really talked about it, but between missions I've been doing the arena, so I've actually already fought this guy, so no surprises, and he goes down on the first try. However, as unbelievable as it is, that massive railgun is not enough to break through the shields of the Ice Worm. How that's possible, I have no idea, but it's fine because all we have to do is shoot it in the face with an electric toothpick. The whole mission is just a boss battle, but it's really cool to see that the different factions are united against a common enemy. It's a cool looking fight, but it's also a gimmick where all I have to do is shoot it square in the face, which destroys the shields, then our old buddy Rusty fires the massive railgun from miles away, allowing us to get a bit of damage in. Repeat 3 times and the fight's over. Well, sort of. The game really wants to make a spectacle out of it, so on the 3rd time you actually need to shoot the needle twice, and Rusty basically supercharges the railgun. Then, if you fail to deal a killing blow, you actually fail the mission as the railgun is spent. However, if you deal pretty much any amount of damage, it shouldn't be a problem. I wish there were more missions like this one. They don't have to be a boss battle, but just missions that show the sheer scope of some of these machines. The next level sort of does that. It's basically a massive elevator shaft. That's it. That's the whole mission. You start at the top and you drop down to the bottom. There is something shooting me all the way down though, so it's not exactly that easy, except it kind of is because you can just use the hinges on the side to more or less avoid everything. At the bottom is the boss, and I use that term loosely because it literally only takes a handful of rockets to go down. You know, this game has been treating me pretty nicely. I don't trust it. And I was right to feel that way. The very next mission humbled me real fast. Starts off pretty normally, except this level is underground and thus has pretty limited movement options. Fortunately, all of my weapons are okay to fire indoors. I say as 3 of the 4 weapons I have are explosives. Whatever, it's fine. This level is easy up to Iguazu, which implies that Iguazu is difficult, but no, he's not. I just had no other way to bring him up. Shortly after, however, this incredibly fast acrobatic thing leaps out of nowhere and absolutely demolishes a couple of smaller MTs. I'm sure that won't be a problem later. Ha! Oh my god, he's two-handing his gun. Now this is a problem. This is the Enforcer, and it definitely enforced the idea that I was getting cocky in this game. It was also this fight that I learned grab attacks are a thing, so that sucks. Once again, I was making this fight harder on myself by not actually understanding how to capitalize on damage, but it's fine. To be honest, I don't actually have a lot to say here, as in there isn't anything particularly special about him. He has a ground pound AoE that he does, which would be a cool need to jump to avoid it mid-combat flow, but I can fly, so everything else about him is just high damage, high defense, mini pain, ouch kabibbles. And after about an hour of trying, he goes down. Next mission, I'm supposed to destroy a power core to get through a laser grid or something. More explosions is all I heard. After doing that, however, I get ambushed by this enemy, an agile AC, but nothing a few rockets can't... Wait, was that the Moonlight Great Sword Slash? No, I'm just seeing things. Whatever, the encounter is on a time limit, and the game does that silly thing that even after the fight you need a few extra seconds to get out, but honestly it's a pretty forgiving timer. Another decision to be made. I'll be honest, at this point I didn't realize how these decisions were changing the in-game world. I mean, sure, it's picking one faction over another, but I was basing all my decisions over 1, not wanting to upset my disembodied consciousness waifu Air, and 2, not wanting to upset my best buddy Rusty. I ended up going with the Liberation Front mission to ambush the 2 Vespers. Nothing spectacular happened, it was just another 2v2 fight. Next up, I was tasked to go deep into the planet because there might be coral in them there crusts, and we want coral because... reasons? Rusty? No, not you. Is this because I didn't take the other mission? I didn't want to fight you, man. We're war buddies. I actually feel bad in this encounter. I don't want to fight Rusty. He seems like a cool character. Well, the game says I must fight, so fight I shall. He's a pretty normal encounter. I mean, yeah, super agile, of course, but you can't outrun bullets. Okay, that's not true. He outruns those all the time, but you can't outrun homing rockets.
No wonder we couldn't find it.
How could you not find it? It's a city. It's not like you lost your keys. Okay, sure, it's buried, but those holes to get down here weren't exactly abandoned. Whatever, the next mission, reaching the Coral Convergence, is the conclusion to Chapter 4. It is... well, how do I put it? Do you remember the first time you played Dark Souls, and when you got to Firelink, instead of going to the Undead Burg, you went to the Catacombs by mistake? Yeah, it's like that. The first mission objective is to wipe out 2 nearby ACs. They're honestly super weak. Heck, the Bone Wheel enemies later in the level are a bigger threat. Anyway, after they go down, it's just a matter of navigating through the destroyed city until we happen upon a lake of coral. I don't know how coral can take on a liquid form, as it's always shown to be this kind of cosmic light ray stuff, but whatever, I won't question it. At the center of the lake is the Ibis system. This thing is ridiculous. It's like trying to catch a hummingbird that's hopped up on crack with laser swords glued to each wing, but not only that, those swords also have laser guns glued to them, and then those guns all have little homing rockets that fire out for fun. It is insane. It's like trying to fight a laser light show. On my first attempt, I took it down with barely any health remaining. But then it got back up and kicked my robo teeth in because of course it has a phase 2. This boss also has the insanely good tracking attack I mentioned earlier. Really any of its sword slices, but particularly the one where it fires 2, then a delayed 3rd follow-up. See, I had been running with the assumption that the flashing square meant, hey, get out of the way, and it does, but I had also assumed that that was my cue for when to time a dodge, which is not the case, or at least it doesn't seem to be. I could dodge when I saw the flash and heard the warning, or delayed until after the attack actually came out, but it didn't seem to matter. It honestly just felt like a gamble as to whether I would get hit or not. Phase 2, it gets even more frantic with huge sweeping attacks and about 1 billion more lasers. On the winning attempt, I only won because terminal armor came in clutch. I literally could not have cut this any closer. It is by far the hardest fight in this game, or at the very least the hardest 1v1. But all that being said, I really did enjoy it. It's hard, but at least it's a spectacle to watch while I'm getting repeatedly punched in the robo-dick. In subsequent playthroughs and while I was trying to S-rank every mission, I found a better setup and strategy for this, but for my first playthrough, no, not so much. Wait, what? After all that, I'm taken out by a little static electricity? Oh, that is such bull.
Feed the fire.
Oh my god, it is Dark Souls. Okay, it's time to make my daring escape. Clearly, you aren't meant to engage in combat in this hunk of junk. In fact, Air even says to avoid it, so obviously the best course of action is to waste all of my ammo taking down this single MT. Why am I like this? Hey everyone, pocket sand? Yeah, so I thought I was screwed here as I literally didn't have a weapon, but Carla shows up to Deus Ex Machina me, but I also learned I can punch things when out of ammo, which is surprisingly strong. Now I have to defend the city of Zion, I mean Xylem, against the machines, which isn't terribly hard except for the drones that fly incredibly fast, faster than my lock-on can handle. How exactly am I supposed to do that part? Well, whatever. After that's done, it turns out the floating city is... well, an actual floating city. Okay, so I've been trying to avoid story spoilers this whole time, but at this point I kind of can't. So it's your last chance to stop watching if you want to experience the story for yourself. Okay? Alright. So, the various factions we have been working for are all seeking to use the coral for something. Power, money, wealth, what have you. They want it because they can benefit from it. Carla and Walter, however, are part of an organization that believes coral to be too dangerous to be allowed to exist. They want to exterminate it. Air, who is, part coral? I don't exactly understand what she is, but she referred to herself as a Rubiconian and the coral as her brothers and sisters, so I think it's fair enough to say that she is coral to at least some extent. Anyway, she obviously doesn't want to destroy it as it would kill her and her family, and she believes that the coral and humans can exist together for the greater good. This more or less corresponds to the 3 endings: seize the coral, burn the coral, or befriend the coral. This time I'm siding with Air and am fighting for Rubicon, which means I have to stop the Xylem as Carla plans to use the whole ship as a battering ram to set off a chain explosion incinerating the coral. This mission, it hits different. Right from the start, the stakes feel so much higher, and I feel like part of that is because of the soundtrack. I hadn't really noticed it at any other point in the game, but for this level there's a bombastic soundtrack playing and it makes the fights feel impactful, emotional, like what we're fighting for matters. But the music eventually dies down and leads to one of the harder fights in the game, a 2v1 against Carla and Chatty Stick. This fight could be made a lot easier if I was, you know, a good pilot, but between the two of them they have so many rockets, just an overwhelming number of rockets at all times flying through the air. One way to make the fight easier would be to use the terrain more efficiently, essentially hiding from Chatty while focusing on Carla. But I am stupid, so I didn't do that. Even in defeat, the duo have one last trick up their sleeve and lock the ship's propulsion and trajectory, seemingly ensuring the destruction of the coral. Air explains that the Xylem can no longer be controlled, but it might be possible to simply destroy it by blowing up some generators and crashing it into the ocean. She also states that she sent out a message to rally all of the forces to unify Rubicon, and that's where our old buddy Rusty shows up. Rusty then explains that this is it, that this is for the fate of the planet and the future, and the music kicks in and just, it is so good. I didn't expect to get so emotionally charged in my space mech fighting game, but damn if FromSoft doesn't deliver. At about halfway through the mission is another street cleaner fight, which is completely unchanged from the first time, except now Rusty is backing me up. I'll be honest, I don't really know if he did anything, but he's trying his best and that's all that matters. After it goes down, Rusty splits off to take care of some enemies elsewhere, and that's okay. My mission is to continue taking out the generators, which, are harder to find than they are to destroy. Seriously, I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to figure out how to get out of this room. But to be honest, I wish I had stayed stuck in there because outside is Balteus. Again. Yeah, if you didn't struggle enough the first time, this one is definitely gonna make you no pain. There are much fewer missiles, but way more lasers, plasma, and explosions. His phase transition is... it's something else. A super long lightsaber that leaves trailing explosions. Like, game, please, I can't focus on fighting while I'm being amazed. This is actually the boss that forced me to change my loadout. I had no answer for his shield really, so I thought I would try an energy-based weapon. It didn't help. I mean, yeah, it did rip through his shields, but aside from that, it hardly did anything. Maybe it's because I never invested into anything other than bullets and explosions. I also tried a laser handgun, which I don't even think it tickled him. Then an extra bazooka, because more explosions could never hurt, right? Well, that's exactly right, it really didn't hurt him. How about a melee weapon? I went with the pile bunker, which does massive damage, but also has the range of trying to use a blade of grass as a sword. After about an hour and a half of attempts, the strategy I decided on was the pulse gun to try and bring down his shields, the pile bunker for massive damage when his stagger broke, and homing missiles just for sustained damage. Even though it still took many attempts, in the end I was able to unga bunga my way through it, and again, I literally could not have cut it any closer. Terminal armor is an actual lifesaver. The final level opens with an objective to destroy the jets on the back of the Xylem to stop it from crashing into the coral, but there's something ominous and foreboding about this mission. There are no enemies, there's no resistance, just this looming sense of dread, and it's all building up to the final fight against... Walter? Oh, don't do this to me, game. Don't make me feel things. The encounter starts quietly, a reflection of two people that don't want to fight, but they have to. As it progresses, the music will swell and the fires around the ship will rage higher and higher, a reflection of our wills to achieve our goals. Walter wanting to fulfill his friend's wishes to destroy the coral, and our mission to live in harmony with it. At some point, Air calls out to Walter, but there is no response, and the fight rages on until the final blow is delivered. The Xylem crashes down into the ocean, and our mission is over. Thank you everyone for watching, and an extra special thanks to my patrons. Stay beautiful, y'all. Also, I just want to say thank you once again to today's sponsor, Surfshark. Don't forget you can use my link in the description below to get an extra 3 months of this amazing service for free. This game was fantastic and I cannot recommend it enough. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider giving a like and subscribing. It really helps the channel out, and while you're at it, why not check out one of my proper challenge runs, like the time I beat Dark Souls 2 at Soul Level 1. Not as fast as this, but just as much pain, believe me. But until next time, my friends, remember, beyond scorched skies, Raven fights on.